Thailand's most extravagant and joyful celebration of the year is the Songkran festival, also known as the Water Festival. However, in 2024, the festival's traditional revelry took a back seat as the country became captivated by a mysterious and shocking murder case that left the nation in disbelief. The main figure in this tragic saga is 44-year-old Pichit, a successful businessman who owned a thriving Thai hydrotherapy massage parlor in Bangkok. His business was flourishing, and his earnings were substantial. His wife, 37-year-old Wanapa Hamala, was admired for her beauty. The couple had been married for 15 years and had 3 children together. Their life seemed perfect, filled with happiness and free from financial struggles. On April 13, 2024, the first day of the Songkran festival, Wanapa took the children and traveled back to her hometown in Sarakam, a province located approximately 250 miles away from Bangkok. Pichit chose to remain in the city to manage the massage parlor during the festivities. Throughout the festival, he sent loving messages to his wife, expressing how much he missed her and their children, and his longing to be reunited with them after the celebrations. Moved by his heartfelt words, Wanapa booked him a flight and urged him to close the parlor for a couple of days so they could all return to Bangkok together after the festival. Following his wife's suggestion, Pichit boarded a flight to Sarakam that evening. Upon his arrival, Wanapa's mother prepared a grand dinner to welcome him, and the family spent the evening celebrating. They drank and laughed late into the night, toasting with glasses of rice wine. After a few drinks, Pichit fell asleep in a garden gazebo, unaware that the peaceful night would soon take a tragic turn. On the morning of Tuesday, April 16, 2024, just after the Songkran festival ended, Pichit's mother-in-law woke up early to tidy up the yard. As she noticed Pichit still lying in the gazebo, she became concerned that he might catch a cold. She called out to him several times, but when there was no response, she approached him to check. Upon closer inspection, she realized that his body had become cold and stiff. Panic set in as she rushed to wake her daughter, Wanapa, who was still asleep inside the house. Startled by her mother's frantic cries, Wanapa quickly ran outside and froze in horror when she saw her husband lying lifeless in the gazebo. Unsure of what to do in the face of such a shocking discovery, Wanapa took a deep breath and composed herself. She immediately contacted the nearest clinic, and a doctor arrived shortly afterward to examine Pichit. After a thorough examination, the doctor confirmed the unfortunate news. Pichit had passed away. The time of death was estimated to be the previous night. His sudden and unexplained death left Wanapa devastated. She couldn't understand how this could happen to her seemingly healthy and fit husband, who had lived an active and joyful life. Just the night before, they had been celebrating as a family. How could he be gone without any warning? In the midst of her grief, Wanapa couldn't help but suspect that excessive drinking might have played a role in his death. Still reeling from the shock, she began to make arrangements for his funeral. Just 3 days later, she organized a somber funeral for her beloved husband. The air was heavy with sorrow as friends and family mourned the untimely passing of Pichit, who had died at such a young age. They all sympathized with Wanapa, who was now left with the responsibility of raising their 3 children on her own. After Pichit's burial, Wanapa tried to focus on moving forward and starting a new life for herself and her children. However, the events that followed would pull her into the spotlight in a way she never could have anticipated. Pichit's younger sister, 42-year-old Nat, unexpectedly held a press conference more than a month after his death, where she made a shocking claim. Pichit's death was not an accident, but a murder. Nat openly accused her sister-in-law, Wanapa, of being involved in her brother's untimely demise. Nat revealed that her brother had purchased a life insurance policy worth 16 million baht, roughly equivalent to $460,000, with his wife, Wanapa, listed as the primary beneficiary. Nat formally requested that the insurance company withhold the payout until a thorough investigation could be conducted by the police to uncover the truth behind Pichit's death. The insurance company agreed to support this request, and the matter quickly gained public attention. Conspiracy theories spread like wildfire online, with rumors circulating that Wanapa had orchestrated her husband's death in order to claim the insurance money. Amid growing public pressure, the police formed a special task force to investigate Pichit's death. They sought to clear up the doubts and address the suspicions that had taken hold of the public's imagination. Pichit Kipchinda was born in 1980 in Bangkok, making him 44 years old at the time of his passing. He was the eldest in his family, with one younger sister, Not. Pichit had built a successful business running a Thai hydrotherapy massage parlor in Bangkok. He was known for his disciplined lifestyle, regularly exercising and maintaining a youthful, energetic demeanor despite his age. Pichit was also very social and enjoyed spending time with friends at local bars, unwinding over a few drinks. The police were quick to begin their investigation, and soon they interviewed Not about her suspicions. She explained that she initially believed her brother's death was a natural result of excessive drinking, but over time, she became convinced that there was more to the story. At first, Not believed her brother's death was simply an accident. However, when she saw his body at the funeral, she began to harbor serious doubts. She remembered that her brother's skin had turned a dark, unnatural color, which she thought resembled the symptoms of poisoning. Troubled by this, she voiced her concerns to her sister-in-law, suggesting they should consider an autopsy. To her surprise, Wanapa immediately rejected the idea, insisting that they should let Pichit rest in peace and not disturb the body. Shortly after, she proceeded with having Pichit's body cremated. In the days following the funeral, Not's suspicions only grew stronger. She recalled her brother telling her about a large life insurance policy he had taken out, with Wanapa as the primary beneficiary. This revelation sent a chill down Not's spine. She began to wonder if her sister-in-law might have had a hand in her brother's death for financial gain. After much consideration, Not decided that she could no longer remain silent and would take action to expose what she suspected was a plot to kill Pichit for the insurance money. She hoped the police would be able to investigate and bring justice for her brother. The authorities soon reached out to the doctor who had examined Pichit shortly after his death. The doctor reported that there had been nothing unusual in his initial examination. At the time, Pichit's skin appeared normal, without any signs of discoloration. The police also interviewed the staff at the funeral home, who noted that when they arrived at the scene, there was nothing out of the ordinary. Their examination found no injuries on the body, leading them to conclude that Pichit had likely died of a sudden illness. However, 3 days later, after transporting the body to the crematorium, the funeral home staff noticed something unsettling. Pichit's skin had turned completely black, a stark contrast to its previous appearance. Although they found this change odd, they attributed it to natural factors and didn't think it was significant at the time. The police continued to interview family members and friends who had attended the funeral to gather more information. Several of them mentioned that Wanapa's behavior had seemed strange during the funeral. Many relatives and friends also noticed that Pichit's skin appeared abnormal, and some advised Wanapa not to rush the cremation. They suggested waiting for the results of an autopsy before making any decisions. However, despite their concerns, Wanapa insisted on proceeding with the cremation, ignoring their advice. Unable to stop her, they reluctantly allowed the cremation to go ahead. Crematorium worker came forward to speak with the police, offering an unsettling statement. He claimed that in all his years of experience, he had never seen a body as black as Pichit's. This testimony further fueled the suspicions surrounding Pichit's death. Based on these disturbing details, the police began to suspect that something more sinister had occurred. They wondered if Wanapa had meticulously planned her husband's death in order to claim the substantial life insurance payout. With these new leads, they decided to question her directly. Wanapa firmly denied any involvement in her husband's death or any attempts at insurance fraud. She provided the police with her chat history with Pichit, which showed that 2 days before his death, he had sent her a heartfelt message saying how much he missed her. In response, she had purchased a flight ticket for him to travel from Bangkok to Mahasarakam. Wanapa then recounted the events of April 15th, explaining that the family had spent the evening celebrating the Songkran festival. The night was filled with drinks and laughter, and Pichit, having drunk a fair amount, fell asleep in the garden gazebo. Wanapa said she tried to wake him and urged him to come inside to avoid catching a cold. But Pichit insisted on staying outside. She then brought him a pillow and blanket, sat with him for a while to ensure he was asleep, and only then returned to the house. The next morning, when she discovered her husband's lifeless body, she was devastated. Wanapa explained that she had refused an autopsy because, as a grieving wife, she found the idea of disturbing her husband's body too cruel. She claimed she had no intention of harming him and emphasized how much she wished he were still alive, especially since they had 3 young children. As for the strange discoloration of his skin, Wanapa admitted that she found it odd but assumed it was a natural result of the body's decomposition. The police, however, were left with no solid evidence to suggest that Wanapa had intended to harm her husband. With the body already cremated, they were unable to determine the exact cause of Pichit's death. It wasn't until later that Nod appeared on a television program, revealing photos of her brother taken before the cremation. In these photos, Pichit's body appeared unnaturally black, which looked highly unusual. The program also featured a forensic expert who analyzed the photos carefully and made some startling conclusions. The forensic expert, who had over 15 years of experience, confirmed that Pichit's death was not an accident. Based on the discoloration of his skin, it was clear that he had been poisoned. While the expert could not pinpoint the exact toxin, he noted that he had never encountered a case where a body turned as black as Pichit's. Additionally, Nod presented a death certificate from the clinic where Pichit had been examined, which listed the cause of death as undetermined. The forensic expert clarified that this certificate, on its own, did not provide conclusive evidence, but it did raise serious questions about the true cause of Pichit's death. The local doctor who had examined Pichit initially found no visible injuries on his body, and the cause of death was recorded as undetermined, primarily due to a lack of other notable findings. However, this didn't necessarily suggest that Pichit had been murdered. Despite the doctor's report, the broadcast of the television program sparked a public outcry. The news of a supposed plot to kill Pichit and commit insurance fraud quickly spread, and public opinion turned harshly against Wanapa. Many people began to criticize her, accusing her of being cold-hearted and calculating. Under the mounting pressure from the public, Wanapa was invited to appear on the same television program. She appeared wearing black clothing and a mask, looking visibly worn out and emotionally drained. During the program, she expressed the deep devastation she had felt since her husband's death. She explained that, in addition to mourning, she had been responsible for all the funeral arrangements, as well as caring for their 3 young children. She was exhausted, both physically and emotionally. Wanapa had hoped that once everything was settled, she could take a break, but instead, she found herself being falsely accused and caught in the middle of a police investigation. Wanapa clarified that she had not wanted to escalate the situation, believing that if the police found no evidence, the matter would eventually fade away. However, her sister-in-law, Nat, had chosen to disregard family ties and publicly accused her, prompting many uninformed individuals to personally attack her. Some even went so far as to harass her with phone calls. This intense scrutiny left her feeling hopeless. She had already lost her beloved husband and now had to endure immense public pressure. Unable to take it anymore, Wanapa decided to speak out in order to clear her name. She further explained that she and Pichit had been managing their massage parlor together in Bangkok. She loved her husband deeply, and their relationship had always been strong. While Pichit had generally been in good health, he did have a habit of drinking. When he drank too much, he would sometimes raise his voice and scold her, leading to frequent arguments over his drinking habits. However, these fights were never serious, and they would always reconcile soon after. Earlier in April, Pichit had secretly gone out drinking at a bar, returning home late at night in a drunken state. Concerned about his health, Wanapa had confronted him, leading to a heated argument. Upset, she took their 3 children and stayed at a hotel. With the Songkran festival approaching, she decided to take the children to her family's home in Mahasarakam. Though they lived apart for a while, the couple remained in regular contact through text messages. On April 15th, Pichit traveled from Bangkok to Mahasarakam. That evening, he drank heavily again and, tragically, passed away the following morning. Wanapa attributed his sudden death to the long-term effects of alcohol consumption, which she believed had taken a toll on his body. She explained that the cremation, which took place 3 days later, was carried out in accordance with local customs, not as an attempt to destroy any evidence. As for why Pichit's body had turned black, Wanapa admitted that she was just as puzzled as everyone else. She couldn't explain the unusual discoloration. She concluded that she had done nothing wrong and continued to maintain her innocence. Wanapa also addressed her sister-in-law, Not, who, according to her, had rarely visited the family or kept in touch throughout the year. Now, after her husband's death, Not had suddenly appeared, making serious and baseless accusations. Wanapa believed that Not, who was aware of the life insurance policy, was using the situation to stir trouble and possibly claim the insurance money for herself. She pointed out that Not had been financially unstable, lacked a steady job, and frequently asked their parents for money. Wanapa revealed chat logs that showed Not's repeated requests for financial help, often citing various excuses. The logs revealed that nearly every month, Not would find some reason to ask for money from their parents. In her view, it was not surprising that someone like her sister-in-law would resort to slander in order to get what she wanted. Wanapa's words struck a chord with the television audience, and public opinion began to shift. People started turning their criticism toward Not, accusing her of being the greedy one, willing to falsely accuse her sister-in-law for financial gain. Just as the live broadcast was coming to an end, the organizers received a mysterious phone call. The caller, identifying herself as Mui, a devout Buddhist and close friend of Pichit, shared shocking new information. Mui revealed that 8 days before Pichit's death, he had been attacked by 2 men in Bangkok but managed to escape unharmed. Pichit had confided in Mui about this frightening incident. According to Mui, on the evening of April 8th, while Pichit was working at his massage parlor, he received a message from his wife, Wanapa. She told him she had made a reservation at a luxury restaurant in Bangkok and invited him to join her for dinner. At that time, the couple was living apart, with Wanapa staying at a hotel with their children. Pichit, excited by the possibility of reconciliation, eagerly closed the parlor early and drove to meet her. This revelation added a new layer of complexity to the unfolding mystery, raising even more questions about the circumstances leading up to Pichit's death. Pichit arrived at the restaurant, but his wife was not yet there. He assumed she might be running late, so he decided to order a bottle of fine wine, hoping they could enjoy it together when she arrived. After some time passed, he sent her a message to ask when she would be there. To his surprise, Wanapa responded by telling him that she had changed her mind and no longer wanted to come. Instead, she told him to head home. Feeling disheartened, Pichit canceled the wine order and began driving back home. As he was traveling along Ramintra Highway, 2 men on a motorcycle suddenly appeared behind him. The passenger pulled out a gun and fired 4 shots at Pichit's car. Fortunately, Pichit noticed the threat in time and, with the windows of his car closed, he managed to escape unharmed. However, the incident left him rattled and shaken. He feared that a gang might have been targeting him or that someone was seeking revenge. After hearing about the attack, Mui, a close friend of Pichit, became increasingly suspicious. She began to wonder if Wanapa might have been involved in orchestrating the attack. She warned Pichit to be cautious around his wife, but he dismissed her concerns, believing that his wife would never go to such extremes. Although the couple had their occasional arguments, their relationship had always seemed solid, and Pichit found it hard to believe it could escalate to something so violent. Mui chose not to press the issue further, and the matter was left unresolved. Despite not reporting the incident to the police, since he had not been injured, Pichit's behavior began to change. He became withdrawn, sitting alone for long periods, a stark contrast to his usual lively demeanor. On one occasion, Mui visited him at home and found him sitting by himself, giggling absently and mumbling incoherently before suddenly bursting into tears. Alarmed, Mui grew concerned, believing that Pichit might have been possessed by an evil spirit. A few days later, She took him to a Buddhist temple in an attempt to perform rituals to ward off any malevolent forces. But these efforts seemed to have no effect, and Pichit's mental state continued to deteriorate. Mui's suspicions grew stronger. She started to believe that Pichit's behavioral changes were linked to the trauma of the April 8th attack. When she asked him if he remembered the faces of his attackers, Pichit mentioned that the man who had fired the gun bore a striking resemblance to one of his wife's friends. This revelation unsettled Mui even further and deepened her suspicion that there was a hidden conspiracy behind the incident. During a live television broadcast, Mui's shocking revelations left the studio audience in stunned silence. Her statement suggested that the man who had attacked Pichit on the motorcycle might have been familiar with Wanapa. All eyes turned back to Wanapa, who appeared visibly uneasy. Mui went on to reveal that, while Pichit had claimed not to know the gunman, she herself knew his name. Just as Mui was about to disclose this critical information, the program's host quickly intervened, urging her not to reveal anything that could interfere with the ongoing police investigation. After the broadcast, the case took another dramatic turn, gaining even more attention from the public. Wanapa, who had hoped to clear her name through the television appearance, found herself under increased suspicion due to Mui's phone call. The police, eager to gather more details, reached out to Mui. She revealed that the man who had attacked Pichit was named Nathan Sereno Rang, though she had never met him personally. While Mui confirmed that Pichit had indeed been attacked before his death, she could not say for certain whether the incident was connected to his eventual demise. Mui also mentioned that Pichit had been infatuated with a woman named Sacheda, who worked at a bar. Whenever he had free time, he would visit the bar to spend time with her. Mui suspected that Sacheda might have used some form of sorcery or bewitching to cause Pichit's mental instability, which she believed ultimately led to his death. However, the police were not convinced by Mui's superstitious claims. They decided to investigate further and question Sacheda. Sacheda admitted to knowing Pichit, but she insisted that their relationship had been purely platonic. She described him as just a casual drinking companion. According to Sacheda, on the evening of April 14th, just before Pichit left for Mahasarakam, they had met at the bar. She recalled that Pichit seemed downcast, speaking strangely and telling her that he didn't want to go to Mahasarakam because he felt something bad might happen there. He even told Sacheda to take care of herself, as he thought they might never see each other again. This account painted a picture of Pichit being reluctant to travel to Mahasarakam, as though he had an ominous premonition about what was to come. Sukata's story contradicted Wanapa's version, where she had claimed that Pichit had been eager to reunite with his family. This raised the question: was Wanapa lying about his intentions? The police began to entertain a bold theory that Wanapa might have been involved in orchestrating her husband's murder in an attempt to cover her tracks. They speculated that she may have fabricated the chat logs showing Pichit's expressions of longing for his family. While the messages appeared to reflect his genuine affection for his wife and children, the police suspected that Wanapa might have manipulated the conversations to make it seem like Pichit was in a better state of mind than he truly was. This opened up new possibilities in the investigation, but many questions still remained unanswered. The police's investigation into Pichit's death took a dramatic turn when they reviewed the footage from the night of April 8, 2024. The earlier theory that the attack on Pichit might be connected to his wife, Wanapa, gained traction. It was suggested that perhaps she had conspired with other individuals to murder him. To cover her tracks, Wanapa might have lured Pichit to Mahasarakam by purchasing him a flight ticket. If the authorities could track down the two men who had attacked Pichit on the motorcycle, they might confirm these suspicions. The police obtained surveillance footage from several key locations that painted a clearer picture of the events. At 10:49 p.m., a camera outside the restaurant showed Pichit arriving alone, dressed in a black t-shirt, shorts, and sneakers. A staff member greeted him as he entered. Meanwhile, another camera, placed across the street, captured two men on a motorcycle. One of them, sitting in the back, kept glancing at his phone, seemingly communicating with someone. By 11:22 p.m., when Pichit left the restaurant, the attackers were seen refueling their motorcycle at a nearby gas station. At 11:33 p.m., A highway camera recorded the motorcycle pulling up beside Pichit's car, where 4 shots were fired at him. Miraculously, Pichit was unharmed as he had closed his car windows in time. The attackers sped away, and another camera captured their escape. The police visited Pichit's home in Bangkok, where they found the black car that he had driven that night. They observed the bullet holes on the driver's side, confirming that the intent was clearly to kill. However, what puzzled investigators was the fact that the attackers had not struck at the restaurant. Instead, they chose to wait for Pichit to leave before launching their assault. This indicated that the attack may have been part of a larger, more calculated plan. In the wake of these developments, the media took a keen interest in Pichit's case. Several reports revealed that Pichit had a history of using muscle-enhancing injections and taking hormone supplements to maintain his physique. Over time, these substances could have caused significant damage to his health, possibly exacerbated by his heavy drinking. Combined with his lifestyle, these factors could have contributed to his sudden death. Simultaneously, others pushed forward more dramatic theories, including one from a spiritual healer who claimed that Pichit's death was the result of a curse. The healer suggested that the blackened skin indicated poisoning affecting his bones, and that the person responsible for the curse could control the time of death. Forensic experts, however, could not corroborate this claim, and the cause of death remained undetermined. The ambiguity surrounding the case fueled numerous conspiracy theories, causing a wave of public anxiety. People feared they might be targeted by similar curses, and many turned to superstitions for explanations. Amidst the chaos, a breakthrough came when Nat, Pichit's sister, brought Moy, one of Pichit's close friends, to the police. Moy had been receiving threatening phone calls and felt as though she was being followed. She told the police that an unknown man had been calling her repeatedly, asking about the progress of Pichit's case. When she pressed him for his identity, the caller would refuse to answer, instead making veiled threats. Fearing for her safety, Moy confided in Nat, who then decided to involve the authorities. Moy believed that the threatening calls might have been orchestrated by Wanapa, speculating that she might be trying to sabotage the investigation. Nat shared that she suspected her sister-in-law might hold a grudge against her, possibly because of the accusations she made on the televised program. Both women were scared, and they requested police protection. 2 months after Pichit's death, the police arrested Wanapa on suspicion of murder. Wanapa, now 37 years old, denied all charges and accused the police of wrongful detention. She was born in 1987 in Mahasarikam and had lost her father at a young age, with her mother raising her alone. As an adult, Wanapa moved to Bangkok to pursue a career and eventually met Pichit, who was 10 years older than her. They married, and she helped him run a successful hydrotherapy massage parlor. The couple had 3 children together. While the police had uncovered several pieces of incriminating evidence, there was still much uncertainty. Wanapa's seemingly calm and composed demeanor in the face of mounting public and legal scrutiny only added to the mystery surrounding her involvement. Some wondered whether her actions were driven by greed, jealousy, or a combination of both. The case, already shrouded in confusion and suspicion, was now more complex than ever. As the investigation continued, new revelations and conflicting accounts from friends, family, and experts kept the case in the spotlight. What seemed like a tragic accident had quickly spiraled into a high-profile murder investigation, capturing the attention of the entire nation. The public, divided by their opinions of Wanapa and the conflicting theories about what happened to Pichit, waited anxiously for the truth to emerge. Wanapa's life seemed perfect from the outside. She had a successful marriage, 3 children, and a prosperous life in Bangkok, managing her husband Pichit's massage business. To outsiders, she appeared to have it all. However, beneath the surface, there were significant issues. For years, their relationship had been deteriorating due to Pichit's infidelities and drinking problems. Despite his promises to change, he continued his affairs and would often vent his frustrations on her when intoxicated. Eventually, her resentment grew, and she started to imagine a life without him. The police had gathered considerable evidence before arresting Wanapa. They tracked down the 2 men involved in the motorcycle attack on Pichit that night. The assailants were identified as W.A.T. Sukesa, 25, the driver, and Nathapan Sirinorang, 25, the gunman. W.A.T. was arrested at a rented house, where he confessed to his role. He explained that he had been hired to follow someone on the night of April 8th and had no previous connection to Pichit. A man named Saro had offered him 4,000 baht to assist with the task. W.A.T. had no idea that it would involve a gun and was frightened when Nathapan pulled out a weapon, but Nathapan threatened him into continuing with the job. After the shooting, Nathapan disappeared, severing all communication with W.A.T. Using W.A.T.'s testimony, the police arrested Saro, who also confessed. Saro admitted that he was simply a middleman. Wanapa had contacted him multiple times, paying him 300,000 baht to arrange the murder of her husband. Saro then hired W.A.T. and Nathapan for the job. He gave Nathapan 45,000 baht as his share, while he kept the rest of the money. Saro was unaware of what happened after the murder attempt. Initially, Wanapa denied the charges and remained silent during questioning. However, investigators found incriminating evidence on her phone, including text exchanges with Saro and bank transfer records that aligned with his testimony. Faced with this overwhelming evidence, Wanapa eventually confessed. She admitted that her relationship with Pichit had long been in decline. Once he started making more money, he became unfaithful and had numerous affairs with women he met at bars. Every time she confronted him, he promised to change but never followed through, leaving her feeling betrayed. Pichit's fiery temper worsened when he drank, and he often took out his anger on her. Month before the attack, Wanapa discovered that Pichit was involved with yet another woman. After a fierce argument, she decided to move out of the house with their 3 children. Her thoughts then turned darker. She began planning his murder. In late March, Wanapa contacted Nathapan, the gunman, through an online platform. They met in Bangkok on April 1st to discuss the details. Afterward, she reached out to Saro to help orchestrate the plot, and he recruited W.A.T. Wanapa also took steps to acquire a gun, which she hid in a bush across from the restaurant where she planned to meet Pichit. Her plan seemed perfect, but when the attack failed, she was forced to change tactics. Determined to avoid suspicion, she lured Pichit to Mahasarakam by buying him a plane ticket. She hoped the change of location would make it appear as though everything was normal, but fate had other plans. Pichit, instead of contacting the authorities, seemed eager to reunite with his family. He expressed a desire to celebrate the Songkran festival with them. Wanapa claimed she was relieved that her husband had survived the attack, stating that she would have been tormented by guilt if the bullets had found their mark. But the surprise death of her husband the day after arriving in Mahasarakam left her in shock. The police were skeptical of Wanapa's explanation. They suspected that after the failed attempt, she had tried again to kill Pichit. When questioned further, she confessed to hiring people to kill him but refused to provide any additional details about her actions. Meanwhile, Pichit's sister, Natafat, handed over her brother's ashes to the authorities, hoping that forensic experts could find something significant. During this time, a local resident from Mahasarakam came forward with an important lead. The person revealed that Pichit might have ingested a toxic plant known as the fish poison tree. The plant's leaves resemble fish, and its roots contain toxins that can be lethal. One of the biggest hurdles, however, was proving that Wanapa had poisoned her husband. Gathering concrete evidence to link her directly to the poisoning was going to be difficult. Yet, the authorities remained hopeful that they would soon have the answers they needed to bring her to justice. As the case remains under investigation, the public continues to speculate about the true nature of Pichit's death. Some are convinced that Wanapa was indeed responsible for his murder, while others remain skeptical, pointing to the possibility of other factors at play. However, with the mounting evidence against her, the authorities are determined to pursue the case to its final conclusion. What remains clear is that the tragic end of Pichit's life is not just a result of his personal turmoil, but is the product of a much deeper conspiracy involving betrayal, greed, and possibly even poison. As more details emerge, the public waits eagerly for justice to be served. Whether or not Wanapa will ultimately be convicted of her husband's death remains to be seen, but the investigation has certainly raised serious questions about the true nature of their relationship and the extent to which she may have gone to escape it. As the investigation continues, authorities hope that the truth will eventually come to light, shedding full light on the events leading up to Pichit's tragic and untimely death.